Hi, my name is Chris McAlister. Welcome to the SightShift podcast. If you've ever found yourself in that tense place of leadership where big goals collide with deep conviction, there's an old word for that. It's called wilderness. And when you're in the wilderness, in the uncertainty, you're in a beautiful place because that's where you can find ancient wisdom. For ambitious, faith-driven leaders, I want you to know there's a way forward and you're not a bad leader to be where you are. We're going to help you in this podcast take all of those moments and use them to make culture your edge in your team, in your organization, in your family.
Well, welcome in and back to the SightShift podcast, everybody. So glad you're with us. He's Chris, I'm Mark, and today marks not just another episode, but a shift in content.
New series
around the culture book. Whoop, whoop. This is the unboxed copy, the original proof copy, and excited to jump into another series as we unpack this book, Make Culture Your Edge. And that's where we'll be headed over the next number of episodes. So excited to dive in. And you can follow along best with us if you have your own copy. Just saying, they are available. Go get a copy and follow along with us as we tease out the subjects, the ideas, but also some of the behind the scenes and go deeper into these concepts.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, you can go direct to Amazon and look for Make Culture Your Edge. So you can follow along.
Right on. Excited. Okay, so let's get in. and here's where I wanted to start. I know you've got a list of books in your head. You've got a list of books that are in some stages of being worked on. You've also got a long library of books. Why this one? Why this one of all that are on the list, and why now?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is twofold. And the first, I think, will get people really stirred up and angry or excited. And then the second one is very practical. The first one is just watching like what's played out over the last 3 or 4 years, culturally, politically, in society. We're such extremists in our thinking. And so, yeah, you can get, I heard somebody reference recently your social media, your phone as a sheepdog to like go get the stuff that gets you angry and fired up and bothered. And so what I've seen is such a degradation at the ability to navigate cultural trends and tensions in a way that's healthy and effective. And even reflecting on my own experience coming out of the last 4 or 5 years and just how incendiary everything becomes, really wanted to provide a model that would help people. How in all the craziness can I lock in and do something that matters and not just be a victim or triggered by the algorithm, whatever the algorithm is feeding you. Second, more practically, and I'm happy to go deeper into either of these, is just that in all the crazy, in all the chaos, in all the confusion, how to equip leaders to have a playbook that they can keep in front of them to go, this is what matters right now. This is what I need to focus on. This is what I need to do. I can shut the rest out. Because our real passion is resourcing leaders who are building other leaders. And if we could find a way to give them a simple framework to go, this is what I have to do today. And this is where I want things to be in 6 months or 2 years. If we could cover both sides of that, then that seemed like something really valuable and needed to be made.
Yeah, super. I'm looking forward to and restraining myself from just jumping right into the content that is in the book. It seems like it's a better starting point is to provide a little bit more as a setup before we just jump right in. Although I'm ready to go. Maybe we'll record episode 2 right after this.
There you go.
Who knows? So along those lines, a couple other questions I wanted to just get your take on what this book is, what this book isn't. Whichever one of those is maybe more like inspiring to you to answer. And then who it's for, because I know we're talking to leaders, but there's more to that than just the general leader, I think. And then we make a big, bold promise that's right in the title of this book. So kind of 3 different things for you to react to.
Yeah. You may have to remind me. So the big, bold promise is just this. I mean, we are in an age and time where we're learning more than ever what matters and what doesn't. Somebody I'm close to was recently sharing a personal journey with weight loss and just goals they weren't able to hit. And then they entered into ChatGPT what they wanted and where they are. And now they're hitting those goals because it formulated such an aware, intelligent plan that isn't just conventional wisdom that's out there. And so the bold promise is because you should be able to, in this age and day, figure out like where you are and what to do next, especially when it comes to what's going to make the greatest difference. And that's the atmosphere, that's the environment, that's the culture. And so we see lots of situations where organizations might have a business model that's effective, and they might have a strategy that is comprehensive and incisive, but they are missing the multiplier of that. And so we open up with an analogy we'll cover in a future session to really draw their attention to how what happens in the culture can cancel out all the rest of that. And so what the book isn't is a big, deep dive on how we think about the term culture, how it's evolved in companies, how people have approached it in the past, this big survey of academic literature or leadership literature. And that really felt like a waste of time. So that didn't need to be something that we put our efforts and energy into. So instead, what we wanted to do was build something that's a playbook that we could put in the hands of leaders, that the end game of the resource is like a coach on the sidelines. They could put in the back of their pocket a piece of paper folded that they could pull out just like that coach on the sidelines and go, this is exactly what I need to do. So it isn't something that we're trying to be the end all be all in the conversation. We're just trying to say this, and this would be who it's for. If you want a model, something that you can organize your mind around and get a quick sense of, this is what's happening, this is where it's headed, and this is what I need to do with my culture. If it's bad and you need to move it to good, and if it's good and you need to move it to great, that's what this resource is for. And to do both of those things, bad to good and good to great, is very difficult. And, so far, all the feedback from years of doing this with organizations, we've done it.
Yeah.
We've got lived examples of bad to good and good to great. Now, bad to good is easier. Good to great's much harder. It requires a higher level of sophistication and knowledge. And so test us on it. Don't just believe it.
Yeah.
As we go through this series, try it out, see what works for you.
Yeah. So you teed up where I wanted to go next. So let's go there. The opening analogy. As I often do when I'm just doing the research and prep, I try to define the word or the phrase or understanding, kind of get grounded, because I know I have an understanding, but sometimes I like to look at what an official definition is. So I just looked up culture in the dictionary. I thought this was fantastic. Okay. The cultivation of bacteria, tissue cells, etc., in an artificial medium containing nutrients. Which, of course, is an application of the word culture.
Yeah.
But how fitting for the opening analogy of a bowl from the kitchen that looks great and clean and sparkling on the outside. However, on the inside, not so much.
Yeah. I mean, and the fact of the matter is, anybody that would say their culture's perfect or they're not worried about it, then they're in trouble. Because, Frank Herbert wrote Dune. He said, great quote, anybody that pretends their boat's on smooth water is lying. Real boats rock when they're on the open water. And when we're in the open water of leadership, and this is a sentence we'll say over and over, culture is a direction, not a destination. So you haven't reached a place that it's like one and done, we're finished. And so the way that people try to address this, and you could replace the word culture with atmosphere, environment, community, but we're trying to tap into that leader who understands culture matters so much. They appreciate it. They value it. We're trying to tap into this idea that they get it's gained today, but it has to be gained again tomorrow. Um, as good as your intentions are, or as psychotic as the leader above you is, wherever you find yourself, if there's not an awareness for like those things we put our head on the pillow at night and complain about to our spouse or our partner or our love interest, we're not going to know what are those hidden things that can take us down, and then how to reverse course that and make it better. And so, yeah, that's a funny definition. And that's what we're not trying to summarize all this and say, here's all the stuff people have said about culture in the past. We've just highlighted a flaw, and that is most people are writing about culture in thought leadership around this lens, what they value and what they don't value. So their definition or their model is incomplete and slanted towards what they see. And so then they end up building just a list of characteristics out of what they value. And you can actually figure out, looking at those models, what people really care about by seeing the things that they say are so important. And they may not be important for you. Yeah. Can it map to your situation and customize to you?
And they could be addressing only the external, and meanwhile the internal, back to the bowl, is just full of crud and decay. And
even better. I mean, it's like the family situation where something blows up at home and the dad's like, but I did blank for you, Well,
you've never been tempted to say that.
I might have felt that yesterday. I'll protect the innocent.
Yeah.
And myself.
Yeah. Yes. So the longtime listener or reader or some part of the SightShift community is not going to be surprised that the content, and this is, the new book and the latest content, but that the content is going after a fad.
Yeah.
Or a trend or something that seems like it would address the issue of, well, we have X, therefore our culture is good. Now, maybe if you're joining us for the first time or early on in relationship with SightShift, this will be new to you, but the longtime listener is going to recognize, okay, what else are these guys, this content going after? Because culture is probably not the fads, the trends, the things that we think it is. And maybe again, back to the bowl, that's kind of like polishing and cleaning the external without really addressing what's on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, the fad is the way to have the door open, but it's to take it to this reality. This is not something, if you know the Ngram search you can do on Google,
yeah,
you can search like the use of culture in business and leadership, and somebody would say, well, the term use has exploded, and that's just because this is a something that is a new thing we care about. No, and maybe we'll get into this in a future episode. I bet we will. This is a couple thousand year old. And in the most abundant societies, when they had time to really think through what they were doing philosophically, we'll probably talk about this in a future episode. I'm thinking of the Greeks here. They thought through, like, what are the pillars, what are the supporting pieces that make it all work?
Yeah.
That get the atmosphere, that get the environment, that get all of the surrounding context of relationships and information into a place that it's supported by this multiplier effect. And so the best we've thought through this in the last 4 or 5 decades has been, we spend all this time together, we're pursuing this mission, we're oftentimes with work people more than our family or our loved ones. Doesn't it matter what's in the air? How can we define that? How can we have a precise conversation about it and not be like a drunk monkey spun around in circles, just throwing darts at the wall going, man, I hope I hit a target. Maybe if we go bowling or maybe if we do this thing, and that's fine to do all those things. We've got a good culture. So I love asking leaders over the last 4 or 5 years, how do you know if you have a good culture?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to answer that.
Yeah. To borrow from the kitchen analogy, this isn't in the book. I'll offer my contribution. The bowling or whatever, it can be part of the ingredient, but it's not the whole recipe.
Ooh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like what we're talking about here is a bigger recipe, a more ancient recipe that's got key ingredients to pay attention to.
And you can take that teenager pathway of just put enough cheese on something that people will eat it, but is it as good as that dish can be? I could build off that.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah, we'll have some fun with that. So I also wanted to acknowledge that we're having fun bantering back and forth in this context. We're going to share a lot over the course of this series as we unpack the content in the book. But like this is high stakes stuff that we're talking about, and we're talking specifically to you as the leader. I wonder how you would expand on that, because this isn't culture. This culture isn't something to just be outsourced to the chief people officer or the HR department or the rest of the team to just figure it out. Like, no, it's something that you have to be intentional about, and it starts with the leader.
Totally. I mean, there are leaders who are indifferent to culture, and they pay the price for it. I don't even think we need to spend time making that case. I guess you could say before that there's a layer of a leader who's so toxic they ruin things. That's child's play. Like, when someone's toxic, when someone's indifferent. I honestly feel like the best high water mark we have is someone who is at least active in culture, involved, and at some level trying to move the needle. We're trying to take that conversation to the highest level. How does someone do this intentionally with effectiveness? I mean, I think about it like parenting. Parenting is a great example.
Yeah.
I mean, there are clearly examples of parents that are terrible. And there are parents that are just, the kid isn't even on their radar. And then there's the one who's trying. And then there's the one who actually knows what to do in the moment. And that's what we want to give definition to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think one of the statements that stuck out to me just in thinking, prepping, doing research is culture is happening. With or without you, culture is happening. So then how are you shaping it? Like you're saying, moving from good to even better, good to great, or moving from average to good. Culture is happening. And I think I'd be curious your opinion on this. I think culture is maybe the layer beneath why good talent walks out the door. We read that it's the manager or the leader, but I suspect it's really, at least in part, it's the culture that is around that leader that the talent says I'm done with. Culture is happening. I'm tossing a couple things out here, but culture is happening. How are you shaping it?
I love that. I mean, people will forgive some aberrant behavior, but once the thing becomes a pattern, and then it creates a atmosphere, an environment, it's in the community, then the reinforcement of that says, okay, yeah, talent leaves, people burn out, there's such a lack of effectiveness on shared resources and alignment. All of these things that spill out of, even if someone is trying, they just find themselves in a place that they don't know what to do in the moment. And I think the emotion that some people could feel right now is like, we're going to set this high and lofty standard, and it's going to be a beat down for you to try harder and for you to get your stuff together and finally be the kind of leader who's effective at intentionally building culture, who can embrace, it's not one and done. And that is not where we're headed. The surprise message to all this is it's actually the things that go wrong that are the pathway. And we'll get into that in a future episode. So if you're starting to feel that emotion of like, oh, can I even rise up to this high and lofty standard? We got encouragement for you. it's not what you think. And to me, that's very encouraging because, I always have the ideal in my head,
No.
but yeah, but reality, the street meets that ideal, and that's where the real work is.
Yeah. I imagine this story will play out as we progress through the series of episodes. But we are fortunate to participate in an organization where the culture is good, and it's because we intentionally make it so. But I'm watching another organization that I'm connected to through a friend, where the culture is deteriorating. And I've watched this organization for a while, and I've seen it where it's been so much better, and now I'm watching it, and it seems to me like it's in a tailspin. I used this phrase with you and a team the other day. They're on a tension treadmill, and that'll make more sense as we go. But they're running this treadmill of the tension points that I forget exactly how you described it, but those things to be paying attention to, and they're not addressing them well. And I'm watching this deteriorate and spiral. And instead of reacting in an insecure way, a way to validate, go back and listen to the previous series and choose more toward impact. They're continuing to reinforce the things that are spiraling them down rather than seeing them as indicators of opportunity where some work can be done with some attention. Another way to say it is there's indicators that the inside of the bowl is dirty, and they're just continuing to ignore it.
That's awesome that it's always painful, but that you're seeing it lived out in a real context. And that's why we want to encourage you in this series. It's like there's so much noise. How do you really figure out the signal? And most people, they're not watching for the right signal, and they're getting lost in the noise.
Yeah. And
so then they feel out of their own wiring, overwhelmed with whatever is happening in the culture. And or we see this a lot too, they're blind because of what they value. They're like, our culture's good.
Right.
How do you know your culture's good? Well, our culture's good because of this. Whatever they list out, it's the thing that they care most about, but it's usually out of balance to what the real overall organizational culture or family culture or team culture needs.
Yep. I feel as if we keep going,
we're going to spill the beans.
Right. So maybe this is a good place to call it here. Any last thoughts as like the setup for where we're going with this bold promise that you can make culture your edge?
Yeah, you can't work on what you don't know is there. And so if you'll embrace this journey with a curiosity of, is it possible there are unknown unknowns outside of my awareness? We're going to help you figure those out, and you won't see culture the same again.
Right on. Well, as we said, the book is available. It's called Make Culture Your Edge. If you want to explore more, you can also go to makecultureyouredge.com and see what's available in this movement. It's more than a book. It's bigger than that, and we're excited to let you in on it in the form of a book, the podcast series. You can keep the learning going at makecultureyouredge.com. And we'll see you back again for next episode.
Thanks so much for being with us on the SightShift podcast. I hope in some way we've encouraged you to face, lean into, and become aware of the moments that represent so much transformation possibility. If you want more, you can always go to SightShift, SIGHT, shift.com, and learn to make culture your edge.